What? Whoa! Can you believe it? All this stuff? Thumbnail faces? What? What? Oh, hey, didn't see you there. Welcome back to my devlog. Alright, I'm immediately tired of this bit, and this is some bougie-ass water. For context, I just recorded this entire devlog, and then realized that my camera had shut off right at the start, so we're going for take 2. So I didn't record a devlog yesterday because I wanted to dedicate some time to refactoring the state machine that drives some of the internal logic and the animation states. When I completely revamped the project to redo Isadora and the player controller, I completely changed the style I was using for implementing her, which involved changing all the state machine stuff that was controlling her actions. And this new state machine is good. I liked it, but there were some elements that weren't exactly great and were making things a little bit more difficult and really reared their head during implementing the special attacks. I thought to myself that it was way too early in the project to have tech debt where it's yeah, the state machine system has these problems. So I just revamped it to make these features easier to add and make everything a lot more seamless. And overall, I think the new version of the state machine works way better. It's kind of invisible work, facing towards you guys and to everyone else on the team because they don't see that it's now easier to develop these kind of features for Isadora, but it is, so it's a win. And honestly, it is way too early to be accruing tech debt. But after revamping the state machine today, it was way easier to implement the Shadow Special Attack. So we can show that to y'all now. This is kind of like an up special in Smash Brothers. For this kind of thing, I think the timing is super important. It needs to give you the aerial boost. It needs to start it at exactly the right moment. It needs to ramp up at the right speed. It needs to wind down at the right speed and stop giving you the boost at the right moment so that you retake gravity control. I think it's really important that the move is finely tuned to the exact right feeling. Otherwise, it'll feel kind of weird. And I think I got it pretty close. And I gave myself lots of levers and knobs that I can twist for getting it to feel that good. But I think a large part of that fine tuning is going to be based on feedback because it's more so what people think using the move than what I think just playing around with it in editor forever. Especially because when you present people with it, they haven't been implementing it the whole time. They haven't been playing around with it and changing small values to feel the difference. So I think they'll be able to see big problems or can tell that it's good right from the start, and they'll be able to hone in on the one thing that's bothering them better than I can right now. Just because I can't hone in on one detail because I can see the whole thing. It's also something worth revisiting in a week when I have fresh eyes. But I really like it. I think it's fun to use. It might be jumping a little bit too high right now. It might kind of invalidate the point of the game. Giving a Smash Brothers-esque recovery move to a character in a platformer might be a mistake. But overall, with the way I want to implement the gameplay, I don't think it'll have that negative of an impact, but it might be something I have to tune down or change completely later on. That's really going to depend on a few things. But now I can show you some of the cool new environment art we got. I showed you the concept art for the Corrupted Forest that I got during my little break, and now I have this fully detailed, at least some of the assets are fully colored, full detail, and we can throw them up. You could check them out. Check out, there's this sick foreground piece, and you can see all the different assets have been brought together to draw this foreground. And overall, I really like it. I think it's going to do a good job at separating the background from the foreground. You can't actually see any background details right now, but the way that cave has the little overhang and the way there's that one massive tree that takes up a huge chunk of the screen, I think those kind of details go a long way to making the player feel like they're actually in the space while also making it feel big and lived in. And it helps the player focus on the play space because that's the stuff that's moving with them as opposed to parallaxing in the background and being really distracting. Plus, it just looks gorgeous. It's just so good. Now, it is very green. You might notice that it's called the Corrupted Forest, but this art isn't very corrupted. And that's because I want the level to start with a relatively uncorrupted forest. I want it to be lush and green with flowers. I want it to feel very beautiful. I want people to go into the forest and be oh, look at this forest, it's awesome. But then as you move through the level, the elements and assets get more and more corrupted. You can kind of see on the cave wall here, there are these purplish kind of gross looking vines. Those are kind of one of the elements of corruption, and those kind of details will get more and more frequent as you get further into the level. In addition to the general color scheme becoming more yellowish and a ugly green, that kind of poisony, plaguey vibe with these purples, just to make it feel really unnatural. It's gonna have that transition from normal forest to plagued forest in like the first like 30 to 40% of the level, where the second half of the level is entirely in the corrupted forest. And I think that'll go a long way towards making the player actually feel the corruption of the forest, rather than like when you click on the level, there's a blob that's like, when this forest used to be gorgeous and lush and now it is corrupted and gross, you must go save it. And then you click on the level and it's instantly a corrupted forest. I think having the player see the corruption happening to it just by running through the level is a little bit of environmental storytelling that can communicate the ideas here without me needing to like shove them down their throat. And I think that's really the way to go whenever I can. Because personally, I think as a player, I would be more invested in finding out what's going on and like trying to save the forest if I got to see it in its like beautiful natural state, and then I also saw it in its like gross corrupted state. I'd be like, yo, this place sucks, and I want to fix it. And I don't think this is anything revolutionary, environmental storytelling, woohoo, but it is something that, I need to consciously think about when we're designing these assets, because it would be so easy to just load right into the corrupted forest instead of having it go through this kind of transitional phase. This is the mock-up of a foreground using some of the assets. Here's the tile set. This was used to draw all the flooring and stuff. Here are some tree assets. That's an example of something that could become corrupted later on. Now, I know this is just a basic like palette swap. It's just a brown tree become a purple tree. The corruption will actually make the tree much more like gnarled and mangled, and it'll have more like stuff growing on it. It's going to be more severe than just a palette swap, but this is kind of the concept I'm going with here. I really like the direction this is going. Cheers. Good night. It was good to talk to you. I'll see you next time. I got untired of the bit. Got a piece of orange rind in my mouth. Not the suave ending I was hoping for. All right, good night. Never mind. Cancel the good night. Forgot one thing. Fur also made this difficult walk cycle for Isadora, and we can throw it up on screen. I mean, maybe she can difficult walk down the edge of the screen, but put in a snowstorm that she has to walk through. There's a lot of work. Throw it up on screen. I really like the idea of this because it's going to be used when there's some kind of environmental hazard that's slowing the player. For example, in the Quiet Tundra, there will probably be snowstorms that slow the player's movement, and I can totally picture her like walking like this, all difficult, like through the snowstorm. You can almost see it there even without without anything, just because of the way the animation goes. And one thing that's so great about this animation is that it can be adjusted. The animation speed can be slightly tuned up or down based on the magnitude of the move speed slow. So the slower it makes you, the slower this animation plays, and the less powerful the slow, so the faster you're moving, the faster it can play. So this can give a lot of flavor to a lot of elements. Like if the Corrupted Forest Plague Pits give a little bit of a move speed slow, then this can play at a pretty fast speed so that it's clear that you're struggling, but it's not like bringing you to a crawl. Also, it indicates to the player immediately that they're being move speed slowed. I know the player will be able to feel it, but having the animation change kind of coincide with the feeling, I think will be really nice. I really think that these are the kind of things that make the difference in what makes a game like lovable. It's these kind of like super polished elements where, as a dev and as a dev team, we really care about it, because I do really care about this project. After saying that, maybe it's a little bit silly for me to be like polishing the hell out of all these little details when I don't even really have gameplay beyond what was in the game jam yet, and I'm just like getting all these assets ready to start building the gameplay and hoping it works. So maybe this level of polish is actually not a good idea. But, whatever. Good night. Dasinki. All right. What's up, gamers? It is Sunday night. Just finished up a nice weekend of getting some work done. Had plenty of time to make some progress today. Mostly, I've been trying to flesh out some of the enemy designs. I realized that since we started implementing these special attacks and we started implementing some of the other attacks, I really need to be able to test combat. So I need to get some enemies in here in a way that's going to make sense for the game. And I wanted to at least prototype out some enemy designs. And so that's what I did today. I wrote out a list of different types of enemies. Defenders who can put up a shield and then will attack once the shield's down, very like the Hammer Joes in Mega Man that like swing their hammer. As well as like shooters and fighters and jumpers, lots of different kinds of enemy types that I can implement a generic pattern for, so that I have these default AIs for each of the different types, and they can each inherit from their own like custom type. But having an AI placeholder for each of those types that I can just like slap on a square and start prototyping makes a lot of sense to me, so I can see how it actually feels during gameplay. And then we can start moving forward with the art for the different enemy designs that fit. Once I have a prototype, for example, a shooter built, then I can test it without any art, see how it feels, and if it works good, then we can make an enemy that is a shooter, and then I can slap the art on with that AI, and it should all work out. This is going to help a lot with planning out enemies, as well as actually testing out Isadora. Because if the combat sucks, if it feels bad to fight these different enemy types, then maybe it's a problem with the enemies, but if I keep iterating on it and it doesn't feel good, then maybe I'm going to have to reevaluate how the combat's going to work. But I think it's going to be good to actually start playtesting how some of this stuff is going to feel, and getting those prototype enemies is going to be a huge step in that direction. That took up a big part of that day, was just coming up with that design and how I wanted to do it. And what I'm going to need to do to prototype those enemies. When I finally got in engine, I wanted to fix some of the direction handling stuff, because sometimes it'll flip the sprite before the animation starts playing. So like when you change direction, it wants to play the change direction animation, but it flips the sprite for like 1 frame before the animation starts. And so I've been digging into that, but I haven't made super good progress. I think I even brought this bug up in a previous devlog, but haven't had the chance to address it yet. I think I might be able to refactor the way changing direction works so that it just works better. And it's not going to do any sprite flipping when it shouldn't. And then I also need to do a cleanup pass on the wall jumping and wall sliding and all that stuff, because right now it's a little bit buggy, and it's because I haven't paid that much attention to it. I've been focused on a lot of other stuff, and since I got the basic movement and a lot of that handling stuff all good, and then I had that state machine rewrite, and that all went really well, I was like, fucking wall jumps and whatever, wall jumps, what is this, Mega Man? I think it's about time that I actually address that. So those are the 2 things that I kind of want to get cleaned up and working before I take on the enemy prototypes. But at least I made some good design progress today, and I have a plan going into next week for tackle the sprite flipping, tackle the wall jumping bugs, and then start doing some enemy prototypes. So got a plan. And overall, I'd call today a success. A little bit exhausted, had a pretty rough weekend. My pipes burst under my sink, and that required a huge amount of mental effort to take care of because I'm not a plumber, so plumbing is hard. Pretty happy with the progress. Getting that updated environment art on Friday was like a huge mental victory, kind of reinvigorating. I feel like a lot of devlogs I watch don't talk about it too much, but longer projects have a way of getting, like there's random bursts of being very demoralized, you know, where it feels like, what am I even doing? Yeah, it just feels like too insurmountable a task to actually make a video game, like a complete one like this, but at least I got a lot of good work done today. I don't want to bring the mood down. But yeah, also some of the enemy designs that I came up with today, I'm pretty excited about. I really, you know, have you seen Avatar: The Last Airbender? You probably have. The way they made their creatures in that show, where they just like smash 2 things together. They're like, what if we took a cat and a badger? Cat badger. I found that very entertaining. I wanted to do something similar with a lot of the creatures in this game. Not as directly as Avatar did it, where, you know, cat badger is cat badger, but like take the concept of one creature and the concept of another one, kind of combine them together with a little like extra design sauce that makes it like its own unique thing. And so some of the concepts I have, I think, are pretty fun. And I'll be excited to see how they come to life if they actually do fit with the, like if the prototypes actually work and then we get the art. I'll be excited to see how it comes to life. I don't want to drag this on too long. I don't have that big of an update. I just did a bunch of work, but nothing to really show off for it. So, I mean, I could show you my Google Sheets. I got plenty of Google Sheets. I got so much stuff in Google Sheets, you wouldn't believe the amount of stuff I typed into Google Sheets, Google Sheets is my home now. A quick like on the video means quite a lot to me, and unless YouTube has changed things since last I checked, it's also free. But whenever a YouTuber points out that clicking the like button is free, it makes me not want to click it. I don't know why. Someone's like, click the like button. I'm like, yeah, that's fair. They're like, it's free. And I'm like, oh, you assume I can't afford to click the like button? So maybe I shouldn't do that, huh? I don't know why. Does anyone else do that? Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's some like baggage. It's emotional baggage I gotta unpack. I usually click it anyway. It just... But anyway, yeah, quick like, leave a comment if there's anything you want to discuss with me, or if you don't have anything you want to discuss, there's nothing you really want to comment on, go ahead and type like, I don't know, I love putting slippers up my nose. I don't know. Peace.